So pop around. Double.
Yeah, it's over.
I'll go 2-2. So pop around. Let's send out.
Oh, I did see a message about it with the afternoon. It's just one card has changed. Yeah,
It's just the same thing, right?
yeah, basically.
You go out.
I just like changed like one card. Alright, that's fine. What about the name? It's
Yeah.
When was the first one?
I'll let you know when you get it. I would. I just got it.
So you did. Yeah. That was not ready. I was fixing that issue.
We negate first an overview. Start with an overview. A new executive order by Trump mandates that all energy regulations must sunset within 5 years. That means the act will only be around for 5 years. This is terminal defense. Howland 410, Trump directed agencies to add provisions on their energy-related regulations so they would expire within 5 years. Trump ordered the sunset provisions to be in place by September 30th. UFG POE must add sunset provisions to its regulations. With that, contention 1 is biodiversity. Even limit expansion of nuclear power destroys the biosphere. Mana 24. Nuclear will not resolve the climate crisis, even eliminate expansion would aggravate environmental and ecological risk due to radioactive materials. Nuclear would inevitably result in risk, environmental impacts, all nuclear reactors, or risk for severe accidents due to their intrinsic characteristics that are nothing offensive definition of safe, exacerbated by weather and weakening the regulation of obvious accidents, produce contamination of risks across space and time, extending production will result in a growing radioactive waste, no matter what kind of reactors is used. And there's no demonstrated way to safely manage the result radioactive materials will contaminate the biosphere and other contamination activity to reactors and mining contaminating land and water around the world, and biodiversity loss causes extinction. Bell James 25. As biodiversity degrades, the foundation of life on Earth becomes increasingly unstable. Biodiversity loss threatens our food, water, and air, increasingly vulnerable to disasters and imperils ecosystems crucial for human survival. We're on the brink now. There's 2 warrants. A, it's declining faster than ever. Watson 25. Biodiversity is declining faster than any time in human history. 5 years remain. More intense global effort is needed to stem the crisis. And B, more species on this brink of extinction. Gonzalez 25. More than a million species on the brink of extinction are disappearing at a rate the Earth hasn't seen in more than 10 million years. The biodiversity and extinction crisis yet less attention than the equally important extinction of the political decision we cannot afford to accept. Contention to his deregulation. Trump has set out his term with promises of shrinking the government, Anderson 25. EXO requires elimination. Trump's EXO calls for any agency promulgating a new reg to identify at least 10 existing ones to be repealed. Despite change in administrations, do not expect a flurry of new regs. If there is, dozens will be vacated. And this executive order mandates for the size of the affirmative massive amounts of deregulation would have to follow. Following in 925, the total increment cost of new regulations, including repealed ones, must be significantly less than 0 in 2025. And the Congressional Review Act means rollback candidates come from this narrow list, including transmission regs on the grid. Cruise 24, Trump and Congress are poised to rescind Biden regs issued in the final 60 days. Scary can eliminate rules dating back to August. Biden's efforts at Trump proofing explained the 97 surge rule in spring 24. Those are safe. The CRA 60-day window for challenges cumbersome. This inventory CRA targets to complement 1 in 10 policy safe rules needed for challenge vulnerable to overturn the 49 fall major rules. The CRA provides a critical mechanism for rollback. Most eligible rules will remain intact. And fall completed major actions. Building regional transmission and generator interconnection. And FERC 1920 is at the top of the docket for Trump's deregulation wish list. Common Code 24. Trump attacked Order 1920, a tried and true method for defanging agencies in Washington and throttling funds. We could see things should be underfunded, which would be a real blow to FERC. And FERC 1920 is key to grid resilience. FERC 24, Order number 1920 continues the essential work of ensuring a reliable grid transmission facility to address interconnection, but that have not been built. And that solves and prevents emergency grid collapse. Right 24. Here's transmission projects are crucial. Seeking to expand the DOE has stressed the crucial role in transmission and planning, recovering from grid emergencies. Angry catastrophes coming, extinction, here's 1221. Attacks to disrupt regional electricity. This could cause collapse from which humanity might not recover. Extinction prevent such futures from being achieved, and flying reduce the likelihood of such events is of utmost importance. And the traditional grid infrastructure is simply incapable of withstanding attacks. And even if the grid were to eventually come back, it decks cooperation in the interim causes extinction from war, trade, volcanoes, and asteroids. Here's 1221. A loss of industry would cause cooperation. Loss of cooperation involves the loss of trade, conflict, loss of collapse of government. Reason for civilization of not recover includes supervolcanic eruption and asteroids cause extinction of humanity. And a new solar flare peak by July guarantees extinction if there's a rollback. Bannister 25, a new solar max approaches Carrington parallels strong contemporary to asteroids. The sun undergoes cycles of magnetic tension every 11 years. During the maximum, sun unleashes powerful flares, which can significantly disturb grids, and dark patches are vital indicators currently in cycle 25, which peaks around July 25. And flares at home, a gray swan event, unlike black swans, not unforeseen. That's what we're doing.
Okay. Okay, I will send the case. Yeah, no, I'm just sending it.
Not just sense.
Yeah, I just. Alright.
C1 is fusion, nuclear fusion can unlock limitless safe clean energy is possible, reaching commercial viability, unlike current reactors which use fission fusion reactors that are inherently more powerful, safe and waste free. Every 20 year researchers unlock limitless safe clean energy, they got more energy than they could inhale the sustainable low carbon that experiment demonstrates unambiguously fusion works, investment in development jumpstarts fusion, Minnesota 23 and financial incentives make zero carbon energy tech attractive for investors policy, encourage build out helping lower cost of expand incentives, clear other energy, nuclear for clean energy investment fusion could help reach net zero size of the market, impact by policies and identifies energy sources better attract capital and the widely adopted clean energy investment policies influence long-term energy mix policies to incentivize investment in fusion. Clean investment policies currently not benefits of fusion will have add fusion to eligible tech tax credits are deployed for driving investments. US had long had tax credits to promote adoption programs are scheduled to phase out starting 2032 phase out the purchase soon to be in time horizon. IRA might be beneficial to developers, however, tech specific do not include fusion. Federal investments in fusion solves US energy leadership and science diplomacy that addresses a range of existential threats even without successful development. Better off. 8. Fusion serves as symbol of scientific cooperation, elimination jeopardizes geopolitical where key stage stability require concentrated efforts to address factors that cause states to fail world-based common threats, climate water such as health, environmental degradation, poverty, food, and extremism, addressing as state scientific co-op. We may use goodwill science generators to achieve diplomatic goals that could focus on bio and nuclear security. Signal alone solves Canon 7. Signal commitment and alert government initiative sends out ways crowding out the stock of scientists is not fixed just as the dearth of activity in the nuclear sector led to decreased enrollment in grad programs. A long-term program with a signal of commitment from public leaders to increase number within a few years. Government funding essential send signals into the market. Finding investment alone will boost the STEM workers. Roots 11. With the right investment gates for US and aggressive deployment of fusion extraordinary these include demonstration of how US leading tech can leverage increasing interest in high-paying jobs for young people going through scientific and engineering fields. Absent federal investment, STEM shortages threaten hedge. US economy fostering innovation, securing global leadership, one of the greatest assets of global STEM workforce yet. US is not being able to fully meet the critical needs try to do that rounds of competitive funding can solve the STEM talent by station needs power innovation today and in the future. US hegemony prevents all conflicts. Chapter 22 US stands out security guarantee alliances are unique reassurance industrial and reducing risk of renationalization extended deterrence the best way to discourage nukes alliances. Dampen the risk of open conflict. Russia and China never attack territories covered by security guarantees. Extinction. Claire 23. Great power was used by weapons and destructive texts. Threaten us with extinction as absence spark conflict escalates such cause leaders fighting. Such a war lead to extinction through famine by nuclear winter or reducing resilience. C2 is AI computing power, essentially US victory the AI race. Falcon fight America's winning the race for global AI primacy for now. Trump will well positioned to take away some advantage of AI. Ensure US wins AI competition require doubling down. Tech activity China AI needed train to run frontier AI progress relied on scaling compute must conducted cost data centers. AI proliferate growing user base drive demands for compute gap non-stop Chinese tech giants as a deep peak from generative AI. US AI labs remain 1 year ahead of long scaling power remains. Investing in AI nuclear access is the only way to stay ahead of China. 24 years is lagging behind losing over to China getting AI America still ranks number 1 maintaining these measures on power and data centers alliance swimming tech and energy secure prosperity. US leadership requires clean from power nuclear drive energy intensive data centers deliver scale and reliability power plants and computers are preparing mass alternatives not feasible nuclear power and scalable solution capacity need to triple China leads to take soon. US stop building new plants policy decisions do not account for system costs specifically nuclear is only solution for growing power demand for data centers. Stay more 24 US need 3 times its current nuclear energy to meet AI growing power demand rising demand driven by AI centers and data centers intensifies interest in nuclear energy. Global protection for nuclear would reduce costs by 40%. Secure deployments crucial for commercial success. Major barrier for nuclear development is possible bunch measure include public funding. China air leadership causes laundry list of existential threats. 2021 spread new tech in the US and allies reinforce stability to deter attacks. Beijing employ new tech in ways destabilizing if Moscow should balance of power it would pursue. Revision is saying China invade Taiwan. SES shifting power balance will exacerbate uncertainty resulting in conflict risk of nuclear escalation difficult. We US specifically back down. China project quadruple size the arsenal coming. Mass provided global perception of advantage by likelihood of aggression against allies and nuclear escalation. Russia China would disrupt international order. Any tech promises shift the balance of power. Nuclear stability tech changes reinforce building systems and stability. Democracy should invest to maintain. Claire extended Claire which tells you extinction by nuclear city.
Okay, wait, so you didn't read?
We didn't read China gives 0 by AI.
Okay. They didn't read.
That was just the last
part. Okay. Can I take the first question? Okay, so let's talk about your C2. Like, insofar as it your uniqueness, and since you said the US is winning the AI race now, why does that?
Okay, so we say that it's winning for now, but it's only 1 year ahead. And we're saying that we need to invest in the AI nuclear nexus to continue staying ahead of China. Because currently we are falling, although we're behind, we're like actively falling behind right now. So in order to keep ahead of them.
Your evidence literally said America is winning the AI or the global AI economy.
For now.
Right, but it doesn't say that it's not going to be later. It just says it's
Okay,
for now.
yeah, but if you look at our Global 24 evidence, it says US is lagging behind losing ground to China, which means that it's not gonna be able to keep up for now. Look at Global 24.
Okay,
Uh,
but your
and-
uniqueness just doesn't agree with that part, cause your
No,
uniqueness says that.
No, our uniqueness
They
big.
win.
Yeah, but it says for now. The word for now means like
Okay, but
currently
it
it's
never-
ahead.
It doesn't give you a single warrant as to like why they're winning for now and won't win.
What? Wait. Literally look at our Global 24. It says US is lagging behind losing by China. In AI, it still ranks #1. However, maintaining this lead hinges on powering data centers. We need to power data centers, and if we can't power data centers, we won't be able to stay ahead. Now, can I please have a question?
Sure.
Yes, on BioD, right? So you say a bunch of stuff about how we're on the brink, but all your cards say, right? Yeah, all your cards say that when we're. Yeah, it's declining faster than ever, so why won't we just, why is it not non-unique? If it's already declining, it says declining faster than any time in human history.
Okay,
So isn't it like,
so we say that like it's bad now, our evidence is really clear in telling you that it's on the brink. And that's why like any nuclear power is what's going to.
wait, but here's the thing, right? We can't always be on the brink forever. It's declining faster than ever. Then won't it surpass the brink anyway?
It will once you affirm.
Wait, but how is that specific to affirming? Because
It is because nuclear, like. the
wait,
first
but if
part-
it's declining
Or
faster than
on
ever,
24
it's only a matter of time before we pass the brink, right? And also look at Gonzalez 25, which literally says more species on a brink of extinction. If that
We're on the
continues,
brink.
yeah, but like the brink, you can't have the brink forever, right? Like if it's declining
You can have
faster
the
than
brink for
ever,
a
that's
long time,
continuous.
no, like, cause the thing is, you can have the
Okay,
brink for
okay.
as long as you want. It
Point
says that,
me
like,
one
you have
line,
to make it.
point me one line that says that nuclear tips the brink.
Okay, so it says that it makes it worse,
It makes
aggravates
it worse, but if it's declining
Exactly.
faster than
No,
ever, isn't it
it's
declining worse?
aggravating. It's completely aggravating it by like the new reactors, they release radioactive material.
Yeah,
Second
but
question,
Watson
it's only 2
27,
minutes
okay,
long.
fine.
How does nuclear energy relate to like the AI?
Okay, so currently we would argue that big tech companies are looking at AI to fund these colossus data centers, that AI is uniquely key because, nuclear is
Why not
uniquely
just
key because.
renewables though?
Okay, because the renewables won't work, they don't
Why
keep
not?
up, because our evidence clearly states that currently
Won't work.
we don't have enough energy. And that is with the renewables going on right now, so it's sitting, and that's a cost anyway.
What's that about?
Somewhere on the down, I think only one's off, I'll put it down.
Can you also send analytics if you have.
It's only one that's off the dock.
Oh,
Yeah, if you just sign those,
Yeah,
it's fine.
We'll take like 2 seconds. Wait, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like 1 second.
we're just gonna go overview from constructed down to this. Now they can. Wait. Sorry. Now they can see the overview and second constructed flow that through. Now move on to fusion. It takes a long, takes decades and still relies on the grid. That's Robles 24. Fusion is not going to stop climate change. Takes decades long after the world needs to make their cuts in carbon, solar carbon, the US to expand the grid. The greatest hurdles. Look at our C2 to win any risk of offense on that contention. They didn't win that rollbacks do not destroy the grid. Imperials from Starter 24 says that we've been trying to build fusion generators for a century. We're not there yet. Experiments run continued struggles, and IF is not designed to generate electricity. Fusion will take a century to come to fruition, even if it takes way too long. Start 22 says that fusion is not a magical. It is the government-sponsored initiative. Science will take time over those decades. We won't even get to goals by 2050, and it doesn't work. Structural factors stump. Airsoft 25. So John Laser fusion site in China is like fusion fission hybrid. It would never work in the place like the US regulatory regimes determine safety. It's like China where it doesn't matter what people say. It matters It fails, from organizational research and technical scientific various regard 23, says that fusion is the only infinitely closer smaller than 1980s energy lasted a 1/10 billion of a second. Nuclear these reactions far beyond researchers require over 100 times as much energy to operate, depending on diminishing supplies, makes fusion impossible. And it's not unique because U.S. leadership is high right now in nuclear. Ryan 24 says that the U.S. is leading and is about to lead the world and so nuclear cooperation. The U.S. leadership, the recent global slave trade nuclear as well. The first program led to state-wide initiative that provides support allied for nations to help facilitate SMRs. These provide partner nations with advanced reactor types over 40 nations have applied. The initiative set the stage for researchers of American leadership implementing these related the U.S. and restoring a competitive option. No located recently mentioned to also negative to expensive. Body 23 says that surplus has been treated with breakthrough and fusion. The energy to generate lasers 150 times larger, so it's still powerfully net negative. How long will fusion expert assume a half a century away? The idea of fusion has always been doing more negative way. Fusion massively unpopular and expensive. Fusion is impossible to achieve too dangerous to contain continuities and achievable thanks to typical limitation make fusion physically impossible and possibly clear continuous fusion. Fusion is limitation release of energy. Energy is released during energy during power cannot be contained. Become radioactive fuel material will rapidly deteriorate. Stars are not scalable. It's impossible to achieve continuous fusion without a star, and it's inevitable. You'll get it by 28 if you buy that. It's even possible. So for 23 says Microsoft will sign power pressures from humans if you the line by electricity. 5 billion to private fusion. Elon's plan is fusion by 2028. Committed with our own financial incentives. Now move on to AI. US AI leadership is inevitable towards a political popularity. Cooper 22 so that China constrain on the automation in AI, manufacturing automation, either low job, labor and resting stability, followed by person for AI. The US Trump is increased funding for Biden. That's more time for travel and should have federal and state level B educational talent. Cooper 22 says that US has to invest including higher education research, which I best in talents for around the world. The number of tech unicorns fears are overblowing. Companies solve around 124 said analysts are researching demand said the US state flat and energy to decrease by 20%, but you cut the card there. And AI tech companies strive despite higher costs. Astronomers confirm inflation remains hotter than expected. Analysts influence the whole sector. Technologists are bullish on the AI face of inflation. AI marches onward. AI companies might see increased growth and see margins. No chance for private sector to follow on fuel growth 25 is only to have bring the load by federal invested billions. Project space delays, cancellations, issues with high energy costs. Companies withdraw their investments, leaving investors behind much wood. SMR says $5 reference to customer economics scales on 25 someone's learning. No longer large reactors have lower generating capacity, there's lower expensive electricity, mass production, cost reduction, you know, exceed 30%, and not reading BNI nor Jacobson 24, and no China takeover in the US and AI opportunities don't get removed that the West is lost and don't believe the high better regulatory AI systems on your go with time frame regulations. And AI leadership is a learning. Con 24 says that fear of AI reflects overhyping expectations. You're all second one. Yeah.
Do you read
I
Notion?
know,
Chat?
kill second one. Read the last part and then read the fall.
Send it on.
Yeah, I just saw. I just got it. Yeah, I just got it. I didn't grab it now. I was one, if I take on, yeah. Or analytical non-doc or. Yes, analytics will be able to get that. I might like analytics and way, but I'll go like slower. Alright. Oh, it actually should be slow. Is it okay if I analyze the front lines, I'll go like slow? Yeah, front, as long as it's slow. Yes. I will send it on. Alright. Oh, yeah, just sign. Yeah, I'm just gonna send it off.
Yeah, after that, right?
Oh, wait, just. Um, the. Yeah, the order is AI fusion. Overview, BioD, and deregulation. Alright. They're really good.
Yeah, I get that one.
They're gonna be good. Okay. We will concede AI leadership is inevitable that China cannot overtake the US, but on fusion, they said a few things. First, group all the responses about how it takes too long, it doesn't work. That's irrelevant. Simply investing in research and fusion builds a STEM workforce that spills over science deployment without actual successful deployment. That's bedrock and Kenman from case. None of their evidence is actually responsive to our specific internal link, which is that when you invest, that builds a STEM workforce, which does solve our advantage. None of their evidence actually addresses that. Then they contradict themselves when they say fusion is inevitable and impossible. None of their evidence says that they will, quote, definitively get fusion by 2028. It's just about buying electrical grids. If you read the card, it just says they're going to get 1 megawatt. Doesn't help anybody. Cross-supply their own tokamak evidence, which says energy only lasts 10 billion of a second. So, overall, their rebuttals do not do anything well. We solve the advantage because just simply the investment build science diplomacy, which is key to US hegemony. Then STEM workforce solves all of their impacts because if we have a STEM workforce, then we turn electricity grids, we can get the electricity grids back online. Their thing about collapse doesn't matter because we have a strong electricity grid that we can combat any future challenges. None of their evidence actually accounts for that. On the overview, I can respond to it in rebuttal. That's how PF works. First, durable fiat solves. PF gets a permanent implementation and continuation of the plan. Trust even be in the debate if debaters can just spam policies about the app being passed and immediately remove the app. Has no ground. Also, they extended their overview through a top-down value as they just said eliminates their option. Second, non-topical, we read Bloom on their own card. The directive covers all regulations only under the Federal Power Act, the Natural Gas Act, and power plant industrial fuel use. It's not about nuclear energy. Then, in fact, fusion is popular and most likely implementation. DOE 24. DOE is committed to fusion research on the needs of US fusion industry. On BioD, it's really bad, so I'll just analytic first there. Walton 25 evidence concedes BioD loss is happening fast and furious right now. At best, non-unique to contention at worst kills their solvency. Second, uniqueness overwhelms the link. Some of the worst nuclear accidents have already happened. 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, and Chernobyl all come. Third, absolutely zero link. Expansion of nuclear energy does not increase the chance of accidents. AI tech improvements only make accidents less likely to occur. Takes out the link. Crosstalk or okay. Then next, no link. The Ramana 24 evidence only claims nuclear energy cannot solve the climate crisis. Not that nuclear energy causes climate crisis. BioD loss. They can't win on this contention because they don't prove the pro causes anything bad. They don't show they solve BioD loss better than nuclear energy. 5. On the only warrant else that's accidents. No chance of meltdowns. Bullish 21. Fusion make a fission meltdown impossible. If your reaction to the takes place under extreme condition in way, reaction to the possible fusion reaction of a whole within a second process is inherently safe, self-eliminating process. Fusion does not produce radioactive waste, does not pose any damage. Fusion, as we have to pose fusion is the most likely implementation. So far as they have not shown that, you have to believe that none of their evidence actually accounts for fusion, none of their case, they cannot gain any offense from the case. Then, on deregulation. When you command F nuclear energy, there's not one single mention of nuclear energy in this whole contention, no link. None of the cards actually mention the word nuclear power and does not compete with the app. At best, they've read a bunch of generic cards about 20 uniqueness evidences. Second, but just to cover all our ground, fusion doesn't link, only competes with renewables and fission. All of their evidence is about grid collapse. If we can have successful fusion that solves infinite energy crisis forever, extend that from case D99. Oil and gas will be short in supply by the middle of the century. Fusion is better to enter the market because of fossil fuel uses in decline from the high price and high environmental restriction and the non-primary competing resources will be renewables and fission. Third, nuclear is comparatively cheaper than fossil fuel tech. Difference is magnified as fossil fuel prices rise. That means when you affirm it solves all of their deregulation stuff because people will turn to fusion. Congress 12. Longer costs operate less cost effective. They become the longer nuclear operates more cost effective. Nuclear 3.7 cents, natural gas 4.1, coal 4.3, and these costs are include connecting the grid or buffering and considerizing fossil fuel costs. International gas will come in will change it. 4. None of their politics stuff matters. Ideology outweighs the no flavor. Congress people do things based on belief, not rational extent. The more recent DOD is interested in fusion. Edward 3, politics is not all the consideration of issues bipartisanship in one area does not carry over into another one. They don't have approval. It's not surprising. Presidents must compete with other civil factors. Cut the card. There, finally. Strong congressional support for fusion research. Definitive. Roberg oh. Congress may then support fusion even after changes in budget continue during changes in budget level. Congressional support for federally funded fusion will remain high. Congress benefits such as development and engineering. Overall, you have to vote affirmative to get fusion and solve hegemony. Alright, alright. Can we sit for cross? What? We can sit for cross.
Yeah, we can say afterwards. On chart.
Yes.
Now, okay, so what, do you have any like specific time frame on fusion?
Yeah, so our.
So when are we gonna get this fusion?
Sure, what we say is that it's irrelevant and none of your arguments are competing. If you look back at the Federoff and the Camille evidence, it said simply the investment or the research builds, number one, a skilled workforce. It solves energy security because we build science diplomacy and that builds US hegemony. Because if we build a strong STEM workforce, these people will go on to other sectors, not only build US hegemony as the cornerstone of different job sectors, but also solve a bunch of the problems we talked about. Now can I have a question? Sure. Sure, let's actually go to the signal alone solves, Canon 7, which says, quote, the signal of commitment a large government initiative sends outweighs crowding out. The stock science is not fixed. And if you want a better warrant, you can actually go to Fedorov 08, the card before that, which says that, quote, fusion serves as a symbol of scientific cooperation, required concerted effort to address factors that cause a space to fail. Which means
both of your like linked evidence is about.
wait, yeah, it doesn't matter. First of all, you have never implicated why date matters, but second, it does not matter because what we're saying is that when you do the app, when you invest in fusion, a strong workforce is built. But can I have a question?
Yeah.
Name me one card in your second contention that has the word nuclear.
It doesn't really, I think you've misunderstood it. The whole thing is like, when we like, he's shrinking the government.
Wait, my question is very simple.
Can I respond? When we implement the policy, we're gonna have to roll back like 10 more policies. So that's what our whole case is about. It doesn't necessarily have to be about nuclear energy. It's just about like any general energy policy.
Okay, so give me one line in your whole contention that says any of this about nuclear, like any line.
It doesn't have to be about nuclear energy.
So you don't have specific evidence to our
It's about energy. It's like calls for any federal agency formulating a new rule, regulation, or guidance to identify these 10 existing to repel.
Yeah, that's what I said in my rebuttal, that it's inevitable either way.
And the
So,
total-
if it's any energy, as I said in my rebuttal, then should your impact trigger anyway? Like,
What? No, because how does the net pass in
no, you just told me that it's quote about any energy. You failed to provide me any specific evidence, so now I'm asking.
It's
hey,
about like when a regulation passes, you have to repeal 10 back. That's kind of
So
what
that-
Trump has
okay.
been doing. Where it's like, yeah, that's where you need to put evidence.
So your impact is triggered even if we repeal something like natural gas.
No, but like that's who says that happens in the net? That doesn't matter. That's
Wait,
okay, just look at our evidence.
you can have a question.
Alright. So why do people care about the perception?
Sorry.
Okay, why do people care about the perception of like investing in like fusion if it's like pretty stupid and it's impossible?
Wait, okay, 3 things, right? Number one, it's not about the people who's caring, it's that the government is going to invest. Okay, wait, now can you let me finish? So number one is that when the government invests in fusion, we build a STEM workforce which solves science diplomacy. That was uncontested. Second, we say that people perception doesn't wait, I'll just finish my response. People perception does not matter because again, it's simply about a skilled workforce and that deployment of fusion is irrelevant.
Alright, we'll take running time.
Sure.
It's gonna go. Our case way. Here. Already. Alright. Start time.
Now, first on sunsets, Trump signed a new executive order that requires all energy regulations must expire within 5 years. This kills any long-term solvency or investment, and they would have to prove that the regulation would be remade every 5 years for new investment. They say that like it's non-topical and it's not about like fiat and that fiat will make sure that like that goes away, but no, it's not gonna get removed in the app. That's so extra topical. That's not in the resolution. The resolution says that they should increase their investment in domestic nuclear energy, not repeal unrelated executive orders. Claiming the app repeals the XO, they're advocating outside of the resolution, which means one, they're not just increasing investment, they're rewriting the old executive policies, and that's abusive because they can just claim to remove any barrier you read and spike it out of any neg argument. That's so unfair and it skews the debate. On biofuel, we'll concede that like it's inevitable, we're not going for it. On deregulation, Trump signed a new executive order that requires 10 policies to be repealed when announcing one new policy that mandates the size of the app, because the cost of all regulations in 2025 must be significantly less than zero compared to last year, meaning when we invest a lot into nuclear energy, many old regulations have to go away, and our evidence is really clear in telling you that FERC 1920 is the first to go, and FERC 1920 is what we need to prevent a grid collapse. And then Trump wants to get rid of FERC 1920, grid catastrophe will come without the regulations, and then again, they don't respond to our links at all, they just say it's not related, but like, they don't give you any real warranted response, and the new solar flare peak by July guarantees extinction if there's a rollback of any of these regulations. It causes extinction because there will be no food or basic necessities, we outweigh on magnitude because extinction outweighs everything because it's irreversible and affects everyone, but also time frame because the regulations would have to be rolled back in 2025, that causes grid collapse this year, and the solar flare will guarantee extinction by July if there's a rollback. That's this year. They don't give you a single piece of time frame in their case. They don't tell you why they're winning time frame because they're not. They like don't have any time frame whatsoever. And time frame is always important because if extinction happens before any of their impacts happen, then you can't even see their impacts because we're all dead. Let's go on their case. They completely changed fusion. They started it as like there's a perception of investment, but then they literally changed it to education workforce. And the thing is, we already have a workforce, and our Cooper 22 evidence that we read in rebuttal is very clear in telling you that education talent wipes case. You can cross apply that from AI to fusion because we already have the education talent and we already have the skilled workforce. There's like you can drop everything they read there, but then they also say there's strong support for fusion that we're already like trying to invest. That was literally from 2000, 2.5 decades ago. We should have seen all of this so long ago. There is no reason why you haven't seen any of this, except for the fact that fusion can never happen. So like you're never gonna see any impact. But then you need to they also concede that the energy is needed more than the production because the lasers require so much energy that it can't actually lead to a positive production of energy because it's just using more energy than it produces. Easy neck valve.
Yeah, we'll start by starting. I was 47 seconds. I have 20 seconds.
It'll be on. It'll be on fusion, then being weighing, and then on there. We have one on fusion, extend, fusion, currently nuclear fusion is the safest, cleanest, most efficient type of power, way better than fission. Investment in development jumpstarts fusion, federal investment in fusion solves US energy leadership science diplomacy that addresses a range of existential threats even without successful deployment, and the signal investment itself solves the crisis fusion. Research specifically massive boosts the STEM industry would solve the current STEM shortages, threatening US hegemony, prevents conflicts and security returns. Absent that, the country will attack, and great power will lead from nukes and famine due to nuclear winter. They have really bad responses here. First, we saw the advantage as soon as the DOE actually does invest post-app, simply investing in the research for fusion builds a STEM workforce that spills over scientific deployment even without successful deployment. That's better off in Kemen. Their panic and pivot to educational talent doesn't evaluate last-ditch attempts. Extend Stat 24 that tells you America isn't keeping over its STEM workforce, which is the only uniqueness spread. Then on Wayne, burden, all DAs are irrelevant, given that we win the link, or most likely implementation is fusion, because all their cards are on the concept of fission, not fusion. So moot case and all evidence that does not actually differentiate between fusion and fission. Disregard all competitive weighing insofar as their cards are not fusion specific. Insofar as we have proven fusion is the most likely implementation by the DOE, prioritize our fusion research. Then on magnitude, it's all 8 million people in double magnitude because our impact is an impact filter. It saves people from crises like water and food insecurity crisis because of science diplomacy. Then our time frame is immediate rather than policies that will happen in September on their face because investment now increases STEM, which helps hedge. That's our Stat 24 evidence. Probability is uncontested link, meaning you know when you do the math that STEM workforce is created, which wins on the uncontested internals. On their magnitude, no magnitude. STEM workforce solved grid collapse, no time frame, because they don't even say when their impacts are going to happen. It's in a few months, and even if they do it, they say it's in a few months, and it's anyway inevitable. On their arguments, it's fundamentally misunderstood. The durable fiat for the app to have any hope, it's perma implementation. Then they drop the part that says that their part only applies to natural gas and coal. At that point, you can completely drop their overview. They drop that the DOE is looking at it for permanent integration. That's the DOE card. Also, on DREG, they do not mention the word nuclear power at all in their entire contention. They read a bunch of generic cards and they drop the double bind. At this point, the DREG stuff can literally be applied to anything, so it's terminally non-unique. On their double bind, it's either natural gas triggers or the link is non-topical. Because their entire contention is literally only about natural gas. They have also not extended any of their case throughout the summary. So at that point, Judge, you don't even know what you're voting for because you don't know what the impact of any grid collapse is because they do not extend any of their grid collapse leads to extinction or solar flare stuff. So you don't know what you're voting for. Additionally, we say nuclear is comparatively cheaper than fossil fuel tech. Difference is magnified as fuel price rises. Solves deregulation stuff because people turn to nuclear. That's our conga to a 2012 card. Also, fusion doesn't link, it only competes with renewables and fission. That's the evidence by Ponder Redden rebuttal. And also fusion turns DREG because of the grid collapse. It's does not happen due to fusion because it's completely different than fission. That's what touching again.
Okay.
Sorry, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so why do we prefer fusion evidence from like 2000 to 2000?
Okay.
For our fusion evidence.
Okay. We would say that you guys haven't brought that up anywhere else in the
You
debate.
literally just brought that up in, you were like talking about.
Yeah, no,
You were talking
you guys haven't brought up why not to prioritize fusion. So insofar as we brought it up in any speech, we would say
That's
that,
literally what we read our entire.
no, but
Also, like you try and tell us it's
Okay,
not.
okay, fine, let me answer your question. You say a bunch of stuff about how, well, which evidence do you want me to like say that's
Literally
really
any of it. Look at like.
Like, I mean, I already took out the contradiction between inevitable and 2028 and not possible, so
Okay,
what
look
other
at-
thing you want?
Look at Rebels 24, it takes decades and still relies on.
Sure, I answered that, it's irrelevant, all of this is irrelevant, because our goodness, as soon as
What
you
is the fusion
invest.
argument? Is it perception or actually fusion working?
Right,
It-
that's a very good question, that
There's
is
like 3 different.
no, you can look back at our evidence, you cannot come up here and misconstrue our argument if we've read it the same
Yeah,
thing.
answer the question.
I want everybody to go to the signal alone solves card. Cameron 7, you have not said the word STEM workforce once in your rebuttal and you try to pivot in summary.
it says that the signal of commitment, a large government.
You have not said
interest
anything to this
outweighs-
in rebuttal, you have not answered the
Okay.
perceptuality of our internal.
And
data.
also,
Judge, do not evaluate new
Yes,
responses
yeah,
and find out that they're gonna
because
try to come up here and tell you.
It was literally in rebuttal.
Name one thing,
Is it perception?
wait, in your rebuttal,
Okay,
can you
yeah,
say anything
look
about
at-
STEM work?
Look at Uber 22, STEM talent across the world, we're getting education until we have advantages in it.
Right, I responded to that in STAT, the STAC card, which says that we need a possible STEM workforce and particularly
And
science
we're getting that in the
diplomacy.
status quo.
No, we aren't.
Yes, we
You
are.
can see
No, we
that-
aren't.
The US
We
has
read this evidence.
Yeah,
Wait,
we
you
read
have-
this evidence too, like, you don't respond to the warranty.
Wait, what? No, our warranting is better. It's literally a study that says that we are not giving up.
have like the best STEM workforce in the world, and right now you're acting like it's more.
Wait, what? No. I just,
Yes, we read this.
Okay, so fusion is perception, not fusion actually work. Right,
our argument is not relying on the deployment of fusion.
okay, so it's just perception.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you can have a question.
I mean, we didn't change it, you can see in the tag of our constructive, it just says. You can just look at the tag, Judge, I don't know what they're like thinking. Okay, can I have a question?
Yes.
I will ask you once again, where in your second convention does it mention the word?
Okay, our second convention talks about new regulation. When you implement a new investment, it's a regulation that costs a lot of money. And you have to get a net negative on like how much we're spending on these regulations in 2025. Our evidence is really clear about that. So when we implement this, we have to get rid of so many regulations, we roll back all of them, but it's probably going to be even more because it needs to be a net negative. And then FERC 1920 is first to go, that's all grid flag, you don't answer any of them.
But for
Right, we have and we dropped a bunch.
No,
But the resolution says it's a substantial increase, meaning more than California.
You do not do the double bind of either natural gas and coal triggers it, or since.
It's about
No,
energy.
you don't prove that there's a significant.
Yeah, it's about energy, so other energy would trigger it, but that's.
You don't prove substantial investment.
Alright.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a minute 15, so we'll take it.
Order is gonna be overview, arcade, when, going there. Now our overview tells you that the app only has 5 years for their policy to work, and they have not proven that their timeframe is enough, and they tell you how like it's they're gonna be able to do that, and yeah, that's extra topical, it's not in the resolution says you should substantially increase its investment into nuclear energy, not repeal unrelated executive orders, coming the after repeals the executive order, they're advocating outside of the resolution, which means they're not increasing investment, they're reiterating executive policy, that's abusing because they claim to remove any business, that we read and spike every argument of the deck. They say that only applies to natural gas. That's not true. Look at the card. It says all energy. Move on to deregulations. Show our constitution, the government documented we said at least 10 robots ever. See, 1920 sets the top of Trump's wish list. The policy is key to grid resilience. That's all grid plans should lead to extinction. Vote on the time frame here. It's like on magnitude, it's a wash, it's both extinction. But we're running the time frame 10 out of 10 times. Because it's gonna happen right when you affirm, because we're gonna have to roll back 10 policies, including this one. They've given you no timeframe whatsoever, and it's about the timeframe debate, not about the magnitude, because we read the same impact. Now, move on, they tell you how like it's not nuclear energy. You don't need to say that, it's about how it's gonna get rolled back. They tell you how like it's cheap, that doesn't really matter, it's gonna get rolled back. They tell you how like Congress is supporting the fusion right now. Their evidence is from 25 years ago. Completely disregarded. They talk about like some ideological thing from like the government. One, it's a law, so it's gonna get rolled back, and that's from 22 years ago. All their evidence is completely outdated. Look at the links in their constructive. They're like from multiple decades ago. Don't even consider them in your ballot. Move on to their case. The Cooper 22 evidence completely wipes out their case. It says that the USA has the greatest STEM workforce in the world, so they get zero solvency in their impact because we can solve whatever impact they have in the neg world, and they get no time for the overview, wipe out the app, all of our cards that we read in the all about fusion, don't let them get up and change their fusion argument again, really easy negative now.
We'll take out.
Remains 15 or 10 seconds. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, okay. The order is going to be Fusion, Wayne, their Wayne, and then their case. Everybody good?
Yeah.
We want our fusion, federal government fusion, follow US energy leadership and science policy that addresses a range of external threats even without successful deployment of the signal. When investment itself solves the skies, the future research specifically massively boosts the STEM industry to solve the current STEM shortages threatening US have they have really bad responses here. First, they bring up dates irrelevant, never contextualize why dates are bad. They have never challenged the content of the cards in rebuttal. They never mentioned STEM. Fourth, they say the Cooper evidence solved. No, it was extended through a stack solved. That says that no, we're on keeping up. But second, all Cooper says is quote, US would attract tech companies. Then we solve these advantages as soon as the DOE actually does invest, which are evidences from 2024. In rebuttal, we said that the DOE is looking at fusion on the overview. No, they have not. Durable fiat solved, but also the card is only in the context of gas on Wayne. They have dropped time frame. Time frame is immediate. As the policies will happen in September because investment now increased them, which helps hedge. Also, probability uncontested links means you know when you do the app that a STEM workforce is created, which means we win on the uncontested internal links. Burden. All these are relevant given that we've been in link or most likely fusion is fusion. Then moot case because none of their evidence like grid reinforcement doesn't incorporate fusion on their way. They did not respond to no magnitude STEM workforce solves grid collapse because at worst maybe it'll kill a few hundred, but that's radically different than killing everybody. Then they said we say no time frame. It said it'll happen post app. None of their evidence says it'll happen post app because if you command app, it doesn't say nuclear in their second connection on their arguments. They dropped the card that it only applies to nat gas and coal and also on deregulation. They have not extended a link infernal or impact. At this point, there's no way you're voting them because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know anything. And so far, we have challenged everything. They have not extended a single link to win at all, and that's why. Yeah, and we don't know why deregulation is bad at all either. Remember, extend the double bind through rebuttal, which went uncontested. That quote, as they said in cross quote, all energy triggers the link, or it's not topical because they don't have a link. Don't do the work for them. Hold the line there. You are not voting for a convention which has no impact. You're not voting for a convention which has no topicality at all, and that's why it's a very simple and clean ballot. So yeah,
I'm gonna assume you're Jacob.
Yeah.
And who's Manon? Okay.
Sorry, my voice is a bit shy.